Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Ralph McAlister with me. We missed him last week, but we have him back, I'm so happy to say. Today, Ralph, welcome to the magazine show.
Oh, thank you. And of course, we're all agog with certain elections and results or non-results, but I want to distract your listeners just for a wee while because I want to talk about Chris Hammer, that's as in thumping hammer. He's interesting books. He was a journalist for about 30 years, and he's now a perfect example of people doing something when most people are thinking of retiring.
Okay.
30 years as a journalist, and he was a very, very successful one, doing international and Australian politics and working for Dateline and Bulletin and so on. But anyway, he wrote a couple of books, non-fiction, Catherine, called The River, which won an award for environmental stuff. Mm-hmm. But in 2018, he published, and I've talked to your listeners before about him, he published a book, a thriller called Scrublands, and that became a huge hit. It's the first time he's ever tried writing fiction. He must be in his late 50s now, at least. And here he is. He gets this major hit with a book which is a thrilling story about the remote scrub fire hazards in the north of Queensland. And it was a really powerful piece of thrillers. It starred his two people that he's carried on to the next two. Mandy, who's a rather repressed, tight, worried about her past journalist, and Martin, who is a journalist, and he finds himself in the three books that have been published so far right in the middle of horrific, violent crimes. Now, the one I haven't talked about is called Trust. It's just come out. The middle one was called Silver. So Trust is set in the middle of Sydney, which is unusual because the other two were set in the country, Silver in Port Silver, and also Scrublands, as I said, in the heat of the fire, dangerous places in Queensland. Anyway, the plots are pretty convoluted, but they are exciting. And if anybody asks me, well, could I read this on its own, because it's the third in a series, yes, you could, but I would suggest that if you're interested in good, exciting, refreshing Australian Oz sort of noir, if you like, you know, because they're pretty black. I would start back with Scrublands, which has been bought for film rights, so you might see it on screen before you read it, and then Silver, which is also again about Mandy and Martin. So, but the Trust is very good. The only thing I worry a little bit about is there's a lot of stuff about computers in it, which at a certain age go over certain people's heads, and I'm one of those people, you know. But that doesn't stop my enjoyment. It's just that I sort of think, okay, I understand, but I don't, and I'll just get on with the plot. And the plots are very strong. So if you're into thrillers, Chris Hammer is in all the shops. I, as usual, got mine from Paper Plus, my darling friends there who throw things at me in many ways, metaphorically, of course. And they've been great telling me about what to read and what not to read. So I would recommend Trust. I'd recommend the ones before Silver and Scrublands. And these days, when it's just becoming warmer and you're thinking about going and sitting by the beach, if not on the beach, there's a good one for you. Trust by Chris Hammer.
Oh, that's such a wonderful recommendation. So, and that's great. Great that you can read it on its own, but then also great if you wanted to start the trilogy. So that's Scrublands and Silver.
Yep.
And then the third one is Trust by Chris Hammer. In all good stores, especially our local bookstores. Go to your local bookstore to pick that up.
I say that again and again because we want our local bookstores to keep going, and they so far are doing wonderfully. But we need to support them. Leave the computers out of it from overseas. Go to Paper Plus. Go to your local place. Very important for our survival, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a win-win for everyone because, I mean, I need a book in my hand. I need to flick through that book. I need to hold it in my hand, especially if I'm outside with a hat on and a nice cool glass of water beside me or whatever you're having, enjoying a really good read. It's a wonderful thing to do over summer. And so, support local for sure. And that sounds like a really good book. I'm going to go out and get that, or I'm going to start the trilogy myself.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I've influenced one person. Thank you.
Well, definitely. I spent 30-something years in Australia, so that's you've pinged my interest there for sure.
Oh, yes. Well, you certainly will get even more out of it than Sassenachs like for me have got out of it. But as you heard, I really am impressed with a new life for Chris Hammer. He doesn't have to spend any time earning money because it's all been done already.
Oh,
and that's pretty tough. The competition for the sort of noir novel Scandinavian, of course, it's pretty heavy competition. But he's come out of it flying colours, and good on him.
Fantastic. What a great review. That's a great recommendation. Thank you so much for that, Ralph. Thank you, Ralph McAlister, talking about a trilogy of books and the third one in that trilogy, which is Trust by Chris Hammer. The first book of the trilogy is Scrublands, then Silver, and then Trust, the book that we've just spoken about. An Australian writer, Australian crime writer or crime fiction novelist. So from one Australian theme to another, this is musician Ben Lee with Catch My Disease. You're on Beach FM.
106.3 Beach FM.